Of course, joining me live now to discuss this, political editor at the American Conservative, Bradley Devlin. Bradley, good to have you here.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, so my first impression, Joe Biden, he came out and, look, he was jacked up on something. And it wasn't B12, all right? He was running his mouth at 100 miles an hour. He was yelling for and then it kind of, over the course of the first, after about 20 minutes, it kind of came down off the peak. Look, he doesn't perform well. He doesn't perform like that normally. They call him Sleepy Joe for a reason. And so that was my first take. Second take, Ukraine priority number one, J6 priority number two. My predecessor mentioned 13 times. This was not an uplifting, inclusive, hey, let's look at the future speech. This was dark and divisive, and it was a campaign and a partisan event from what I could tell. Your thoughts?
I mean, it was a declaration of war on the American people. It was a declaration of war in two proxy wars abroad. It was a declaration of war on the Constitution, on the checks and balances that are enshrined in the Constitution, on a Republican system of government. And it was a declaration of war on just about anything that is good in this country anymore. I mean, you see that Gold Star father getting arrested. The Biden regime wants to send your sons and daughters overseas, and then they'll arrest you if you get mad about it. Have we learned nothing from the failures in Afghanistan and Iraq? Apparently not, because Biden announced last night that he's going to build a humanitarian port in Gaza, and he said there's going to be no boots on the ground. But how is the U.S. military going to build it then? Who's going to be operating that pier? And how will it operate if there's no U.S. operators? And of course, he lied about boots on the ground in Ukraine. Intelligence leaks from the Germans in April of 2023 found that there were already special forces there. And of course, our operations across Europe are already helping the Ukrainians with training, with maintenance of sophisticated weaponry, and as well as targeting even inside Russian territory. So this was a just really dark moment, I think, for the Biden presidency. And it was his best chance to actually make a pitch to the American people that he deserves 4 more years. Not only that he deserves 4 more years, but he's actually capable of serving them. And he fell flat.
Well, he did, except there's one problem there, Bradley. Most people don't watch it. They get bits and pieces from Good Morning America or MSNBC or wherever they get it. And the one bite that they're going to say is that you don't get to love America only when you win, or however that line came out. Reasonably well delivered. It's 10 seconds. That's what most people will hear. And that will be their impression of the State of the Union. Not the fact that he was jacked up on something, because clearly he was. Not the fact that he was attacking anything right of center, including Donald Trump 13 different times during that speech. Not to mention the fact that he lied about really obvious things. He said crime is at its lowest rate in 50 years. We've got the National Guard securing the New York City subway system. We've got other police departments in America that don't even have anybody to answer 911. Crime down to a 50-year low. That might have been the biggest whopper of the night. What was yours?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you there. I think you mentioned earlier in the show the gaffe that he had when talking about Laken Riley's case. And then you're not sure if he said illegals or legals. Listen, I don't know if thousands of people murdered by legals is a good pitch for Biden to say everything's clearly under control here. Crime is through the roof. Prices are through the roof. Immigration, illegal and legal, through the roof. Biden wants to codify the COVID election system, which is an absolute scam on the American democracy, on Americans and American democracy. He wants to codify his parallel asylum system, which is legally dubious at best, through this ridiculous border deal negotiated with the lame duck Mitch McConnell. So this is just par of the course for the Biden presidency. It's a lot of moderate talk, but of course the inmates are running the asylum. And we've just seen crime go down miraculously. No, we haven't. Of course we haven't. If crime is going down, it's because a bunch of Soros DAs around the country have just determined that they're not going to prosecute crimes anymore.
Right, exactly right. The same way you keep immigration down, just fly them over the border. 320,000 that they admit to last year. That way you don't have as many people over the border, right? I mean, Bradley, if you want to skip the numbers at the border, just fly them over, even though they are inadmissible illegals. And we're flying them in directly. I mean, on your tax dollar and mine, This is an insane time. You've got an open border, and we're flying people over. You've got an economy. You notice one word that was never used last night, Bidenomics. Didn't hear it one time. A year ago it was being used all the time. They're bragging about Bidenomics, and this didn't hear it one time. It has become toxic for a reason. Anyhow, a lot of gaslighting going on. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just want to make sure every American knows that when Biden went to the rostrum last night, he first talked about the state of Ukraine, not the state of prices of gas or groceries or healthcare or housing. His number one priority is to keep us involved in wars in Europe that have no interest, that America has no interest in. Listen, Russia is not a great regime by any means, but the idea that we're going to go in and police the world and bring Biden's version of democracy everywhere, it's a massive hoax being played on the American people, that we're not involved in these wars. And we need to vote him out come November 5th if we want things to go back to normal, if we want to stop getting ourselves involved everywhere in the world and sending more people to die overseas.
And I think one of the things we have to correct over and over again is we have to save democracy. No, we have to save a republic. All right, let's just be clear about that, Bradley. It's words matter. America is a representative constitutional republic. We should remember that and remind people every single day, because this whole conversion to democracy thing is warping people to think that we live someplace that we do not. Bradley Devlin, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.